Let's party, folks. Welcome to the open mic. You've got Aaron here. We do this call because MSPs wanted to know what we were up to, what's new in the platform, what bugs we fixed, and you folks wanted to do a little R&D with your MSP peers or rob and duplicate automation ideas. With that, a couple reminders. Uh, we use Discord here, not because I'm some huge fan of Discord, but because communication is evolving. I hope a year or two from now, there's like even better and more used platforms than Discord. But right now, it's Discord. Since we use that, ask questions. I know approximately, let me see, 2, 10, 12 divided by 4, multiplied by 2, 0 MSBs that have succeeded with automation that have never asked a question. So you can pop into the coop and ask a question there, and maybe the MSP community or one of our support folks will help you out. And if you don't want to ask publicly, feel free to throw it into your Discord channel. And Jesse will respond directly to every question that you post. And with
I may
that,
not say something useful, but I will say something.
and with that, I'll pass it over to Ash. What's up, Ash?
Hey guys, how's it going? All right. I'm a little so George, I'm not sure whether you didn't put yourself in because you thought you were going to be late or if you just didn't want to say
I'm at the
anything at all
end.
this
I'm the
week.
bookend.
Oh, you left yourself off to the very end. Okay, I see. Yes, we're
For a little
leaving some time. So we need to
special
make sure we leave
announcement.
some time. Yes. Okay. Um, so we are going to have our Daniel replacement today, our Janiel, if you will, uh, give us our product update to start.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Ash. Happy Friday, everyone. So, for our product update this week, we now have additional endpoints for our SIP integration. So, this includes GDAP management, user management, and also license management. So, if you navigate to your workflows, now you can see you can add those additional endpoints right in. Next, we have updates for RoboRewsty. So now we have enhanced system prompt functionality with static dynamic prompts. So this allows for improved AI interactions with RoboRewsty. It's more accurate and also contextually relevant to any responses and prompts that you all will be using. Next, we have a plethora of bug fixes that the team implemented this week over about 3 integrations. So that would be for Microsoft Exchange, online integration, now allows for better mailbox handling and also mailbox access, ensuring that you all have reliable connections when working with shared mailboxes. Next, we also have improved functionality for IT Glue, which we implemented searchable org filters for easier navigation. And then it also allows you to preload filter options as well. And for our third integration improvement, we also have fixed the memory crashes for EmiBot. So this will allow you all during your sync operations with large payloads. This allows for better handling there. Also, we have a big milestone that we hit with permissions. We have resolved edit permissions for forum-only users. This aligns for better access controls and also prevents unintended modifications. And then we also have some fixes around triggers and then also functionality within the platform as well. So huge shout out to the team for this week. Pretty heavy release week for the team across the board. And lastly, we have coming soon is our ConnectWise Azio integration. We're working on key functionality, so keep an eye out for this integration. It should be coming up fairly soon. And then also check back next week for any new updates. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. All right, so you can go back to Daniel now and tell him that everybody loves you more than him, and it's confirmed. Did I see a hand up?
That was a whoops.
Okay. All right. So now we are going to jump over to our Jesse for our marketplace update and some sort of integrations demo. I don't know. You need to stop keeping everybody on suspense.
We'll see. I'll make it up as I go along. I like the R Jesse. There are many like it, but this one is ours. That's great. Alrighty, let me get my screen shared up here. So yeah, I'll go through marketplace updates for this week first, and then I do have a demo of one of the newly released crates that I will tempt the demo gods with on this Friday afternoon. Looking through the new crates and the enhancements that we have made this week, we got a few things that we got released. So the first one is the use AI to suggest responses to new tickets. We refactored that workflow a little bit, made some adjustments, and then added Anthropic support as well. So they're no longer just OpenAI crates, they're also just general AI crates. So if folks use Anthropic and or OpenAI, you can use those crates now. And then if there's other AI vendors that we have that you want us to include, let us know and we can get those added as well, pending that we have integrations for them. We also released the Duo Identity Verification crate, which is what I'll go through in a sec here. That one is part of our broader privileged access management use case push. So if you've heard from Jen Green recently about some of those things, or you've seen that bubbling up in various areas within the community, we've been making a big push to kind of highlight or shine a light on different privileged access management use cases. I'll go through which crates are included in that in a sec here. And then we also finally got the DropSuite stuff released. So that was sitting there for a little bit. We did a demo of those, I think 2 weeks ago, hit a couple snags when we went to release them, but those are now released as of, I believe, Wednesday this week. They've got docs associated with them. So if you use DropSuite and you use Roost, you can now use those as well. Looking at bug fixes and chores, I won't go through every single thing here because some of them are kind of bucketed together, but looking at a couple things, the AI ticket sentiment analysis updated some of the inputs for the sub workflows so things get passed correctly. So just doing a couple tune-ups to that workflow. The M365 disable inactive user accounts. We now identify inactive users based on the last successful interactive sign-in. I think we were using a different piece of information from the endpoint before that wasn't completely accurate. So somebody made that suggestion and we updated that. I'll kind of group the user onboarding stuff here all at once because there's a few different user onboarding ones. So added the M365 E5 license to the list of subscribed products, improved error logging to create for creating Azure AD users, removed a hard-coded device ID that was kicking around in there that somebody raised. And then there was an issue with the SuperOps integration override. So that if that affected you because you're using SuperOps, that should be resolved now as well. And then Pod Technician Toolbox excluded disabled triggers from some of the forms. So that was getting in people's way a little bit. So got rid of those. A couple other things there as well. For the offboarding workflows, so looking at Google and I'm grouping these together. I should separate them. Google user offboarding, we added the option to remove all licenses when selected. That one was highly requested. And then I tried to group these together. Workstation offboarding, we added a ticket ID and optional ticket note. So if people are wanting to get a ticket rather than an email when they're working with that crate, they can do that. And then last thing here was the configure org variables. We added the enable device filter ID field, which was not there previously. And then in terms of things that are coming soon here, so we've got a per machine password rotation, which we will demo next week. That's another crate that's included in the privileged access management use case. We're still working on enhanced logging for the user onboarding workflow, hitting a couple snags there. There's 1 or 2 more DropSuite editions that we're hoping to do before the end of the year, getting the user onboard and user offboard editions out as well. And then the last two here, which we should be on track to release before the end of the year, are a traveling employee CA policy form and a improvement to the GDAP crates. So with that, I will jump over to the demo that we got for you guys here. So as I said, we're focusing on privileged access management for the month of December. One of those crates that was identified by our user base was duo identity verification. So the idea behind this crate is if you're working with somebody and you're working in a ticket and they're trying to get you to do something like change their password or even just make updates to their account, and you want to confirm that this person is who they say they are, then you should be able to do the identity verification through Duo within a ticket. So we've tried to make that into a pretty easy to use automation that just triggers automatically when a ticket gets logged. The logic here is that if the user is a contact in, or if the user's contact in the PSA exists in Duo, then when a ticket gets created, this crate will run, find that user, and then it will try to do the identity verification in the ticket. Looking at the different triggers that we got here, we got a bunch of them for each PSA. So again, this one is triggering off of a webhook. So every time the ticket gets created, it's going to fire off that webhook from the PSA over to Roost to tell the automation to run. And then we also have the Duo identity verification webhook in here as well. So if you're using this and you're setting this up, you would need to have two triggers active. It would need to be the PSA that you're using, and then you would need the Duo identity verification webhook active as well. I won't go too much into the structure of the workflow unless there are questions, which I can do at the end here, but showing off how this one actually works. I'm using Halo, and Halo's webhooks run every 5 minutes, so I've kind of pre-run this one a little bit so as not to make people sit and wait for me to do the demo here. So if I jump over to Halo, what I've got so far is I've got a new ticket that I had created, and then the workflow ran for its first time. And put a ticket note in here saying that if you want to verify the identity of the person who's the contact on the ticket, which is myself, then you would click this link here to send the request. I was testing this out before the call just to make sure it worked, and I did the deny. So if you say that, if the person says that they actually are not the person that is doing the request, so they're not the person that's on the ticket and there's an issue going on, then they can deny that, and that's what is right here. So this is saying that I had denied the approval when it came through to my phone. But then we always try to give the link another time so that you can keep sending these requests, because it would be annoying if it just got sent once and then they denied and then you needed to do it again. So every time it communicates back, except for when it's successfully been approved, it will send that link in there again so that you can keep trying if you need to for whatever reason. So I'm going to try to do this live and show it off here. If I click on this one, then a tab opens up and quickly closes. And we should twice get a request here. Let's see. Make sure the workflow is running. Yep, okay, it's doing its thing. Thinking. See, yep, there we go. And then if hopefully this shows up, so you can see that it asks me to say yes or no. So I will say approve on my phone. And I'm fully aware that that gives you all a new meme template where you have me holding my phone up to the screen and you could put unsavory images instead of the Duo authentication. So please use that with discretion here. And then we can see that it comes back and says that I have verified the ticket. So this would be, again, the use case here is if you're working on a ticket with somebody in your PSA and you're like, I need to make sure that this person is who they say they are before we actually proceed with the change that we're going to make in the ticket, you can then verify their identity and get a push sent directly to their phone through Duo. So that's the gist of it. Pretty straightforward, kind of smaller use case in the broader set of privileged access management crates. The other sets of crates that we have are the user password rotation, machine password rotation, Duo identity verification that I just went through, and then the fourth one is just-in-time admin access, which Jamie and folks went through in a kind of automation workshop that was ran earlier this week. So check that out as well if you haven't checked out the recording for that. Any questions at all? Good. Any questions in the chat at all?
John did want you to know that your Chrome was out of date.
Thank you, John.
Thank you so much.
I know what I'm doing after I stop sharing.
You also don't have enough tabs open.
This is like my polished like demo set of tabs, and behind this is probably bumping up against the limits of how many tabs Chrome will let you have open. So
That's better. I don't know if I can trust technical advice from somebody who doesn't have a lot of tabs open.
yeah, I don't know if I can. Is it behind here? I won't even show you because it would be like looking upon the Holy Grail. So.
All right.
Wasn't specifically a question for you, but Dave did ask, anyone figure out how to do auth pushes via Microsoft Authenticator? As far as I can tell, you used to be able to do that, but I can't seem to find a modern working example. Alden said he thought there was a crate for that.
So there was, and I'm glad you brought it up because I was debating whether to talk through that because people might ask, why did you just do Duo and why didn't you do, Microsoft as well and other tool sets? We wanted to do Microsoft, but they adjusted their API such that you can't do it. I don't think you now need to use, I think you need to use the Authenticator app, but it's not great the way that it functions. But if that's changed or if I'm wrong, then definitely let somebody at Roost know and we can investigate it again and see if it's worth revisiting. I just know that previously we've looked at it and it was not a great process, and we tried to build a crate and we were like, this is just going to be more confusing than it is useful. So that's why we don't have one, is because there wasn't a great way to do it via Microsoft, but the people on this call would be the right people to correct me if that was not the case anymore. So.
And then Calvin did say SIP integration has it.
There you go. So that's another potential SIP crate. It's good to know. Any other questions?
I think everything else was just chatter here. All right. Thank you, Jesse. So now we are going to jump into our education update from Clea.
Hello, hello. I am actually ready for once. And if you're looking at my Chrome and thinking that is not enough tabs, then don't worry. I have this little group called Later where I squirrel all of my stuff away for later and forget to look at it until I find some free time. This week's updates, we are going to go through a few Cluck University updates and shoutouts, and then don't let me forget documentation highlights because there is a lot of new stuff and we want y'all to check it out. So Cluck University, we've got one brand new course today that just launched and 2 other new-ish courses, RoboRewsty prompting, a recording of the automation lab session from, I think it was Tuesday, featuring the legendary Eddie Chow and Nalin walking through the just-in-time admin access crate. I think we had like over 60 people on that call, so go check it out in the course. And one that isn't getting a lot of love yet, but I would recommend anyone take it if you have some experience building a form and you're just like, I want to make this look a little snazzier. Go take that course. It'll show you how to add a logo or an image. Could be a picture of Jesse's face to brand your Roost forms. Just needs a little bit of coding magic, and we teach you how to do it in that course. I'll show you where to find those new courses in Cluck University in a minute, but first, shout outs to folks who recently got certified in Roost Foundations and Clean Automation. They include, for Foundations, Liam, Josh, Matt, Dakota, Adele, Sachin, Suhaib, Kyle, Ainsley, and Edwin, and Roost's very own Justin and Joe. Kudos to y'all. Clean Automation includes Dakota, Arunab, Paul, and Steven. So any newly certified folks, you should have access to the Bird Brains channel in Discord. That's where I often share sneak peeks of some new courses, ask for your input. You can ask us any questions there, as well as in the Cluck U channel in Discord, which has been very active this week. We'd love to see all your questions. Please always keep them coming. So new courses, drop that link to Cluck University in this here chat. The chat is running fast and furious, so I'll catch up on messages there if there's any questions for me. But gave this little banner a little bit of a glow up because some people internally at Roost didn't even know it's here. We share the latest 1 or 2 new courses here, but you can always find whatever you need in home, search courses, search up here, filter some stuff. I'm looking into reorganizing this to kind of make it easier to find what you need based on your interests and what you're trying to learn next. But you'll notice here, RoboRewsty prompting, how to get the results you want, and 3 ways to start using RoboRewsty. Also featured right here. RoboRewsty prompting course is pretty short. Last minute, I added a somewhat unhinged video of yours truly just blabbing into my iPhone and saying, hey, before like offloading all your cognitive function to RoboRewsty, you really got to know a little something about how Roost works and what you want to accomplish. So check it out, then learn about good prompting and prepare to be less frustrated in using RoboRewsty. I know that I missed some of those prompting best practices, and I'm going to go back, take this course, and have a better experience in using AI as my assistant. And then I mentioned the automation lab session. So the live training lesson has been replaced with the session recording. There is a little bit of fuzzy audio at the beginning, so we're working on cleaning that up. But in the meantime, rough version ready here, and make sure to let us know what you think. There is also a longer feedback survey to inform future automation lab sessions at the end. So that's Cluck University. Back to documentation. A lot of stuff. Automation toolkit crate, Duo identity, lots and lots and lots of stuff. Go give those links some love and enjoy. Thank you. I'll respond to any questions in the chat. Oh,
Thank
baby
you.
status. She's saying tickle tickle, which means she wants me to tickle her, but we're gonna work on Roost. That'll be her next word.
Thank you, Clea. When we get that down, we'll have to have her on to demo it for us. All right, so now we're going to jump into our first partner demo, which is going to be our very own DJ Dunk, Daniel.
Hello, thank you, Ash. So if you have ever watched an open mic that I've presented on before, you'll find that I'm really good at using Roost for things that Roost wasn't meant to be used for, specifically non-work related things. So you'll see things like fantasy football or March Madness tracking, or in this case, my own version of Spotify Rewind. But at least this time it's related to Graph API. So Graph has these really, really cool report endpoints that are available where you can request a single endpoint. It will give you a link to a follow-up CSV, and then you can do a lot of reporting based on your entire organization in a single call. So you'll see this used in SIP for like mail size or mailbox quotas. I think it's part of the Roost crate as well. But if you haven't used these before, check out these report endpoints because they're super, super cool. So in function, I use 3 different reports in this. So you've got the Viva one, you've got Teams, and you've got the Outlook email one. Each of these just make a single graph call to get the email activity user detail for the last 180 days. And then the follow-up is just an HTTP call to the location of the CSV. And then from there, I store everything in a template after parsing it from a CSV to a JSON string. So when that's run, it looks something like this. This workflow will just take a refresh data input. So when you hit test on it, you can say refresh data true or false. And then the other branch here will actually get the user data and return it from the templates. So looking at that, all this literally is take the user principal name from the report and match it to the Roost username, lowercasing both, just to make sure things match up, and pull the data from the templates, and then output a JSON object with the data we need in it. So the execution just takes a couple seconds to run, so 26 seconds to pull the data for the entire org. And from there, I gave the output spec to Claude and said, hey, make me a Spotify Rewind for our organization that I can send out to everybody. So just some light, quick Jinja and HTML and CSS. And 1,700 lines later, I have an ITS rewind that I can send out to everybody in the organization and waste time because negative time savings is the best feature of this platform. So my last 180 days, I've sent 9,000 Teams messages, 12,000 emails in my inbox, 47% red rate, not super great, but I'll take it. In Viva Engage, I've posted 3 times. I've read 170 posts, 546 meetings attended. I've been in 14 days of meetings in the last 180 days. All but 3 hours of that, my camera was on. Here's my Office 365 licensing. There's a connector part of this Jinja where it'll say, like, if you sent over 10,000 messages, you're just talking, or this is your persona. If you do a lot of meetings, you're this persona, and so on and so on. And then some stats. If I would have actually used my walking treadmill behind me, I would have been able to walk 7.2 marathons in this entire meeting thing that I've done last 180 days here. 710 copies, all that fun stuff. Some account details just for curiosity. Quick summary slide, and just a thank you. So the really cool thing from this was being able to take the stats out of it. So using GraphQL, I was able to pull the executions of that workflow and look at the output and see the first time that everybody ran the workflow. So watching it as I slowly leaked it out to people to kind of test it out, and then watching the groups of people. So as a manager found it, they would send it to their team immediately, and you get a spike of 9. It got mentioned in our morning huddle on the 11th. And so just watching the spike happen where 32 people ran it all at once and getting the unique executions out was just extra cool stats that came out of this too. So I got the first run for everybody, the user principal name who ran it, and then the number of people who run it, the top 5 users there. So obviously I'm the first one here with 20 runs just for testing purposes, but it's fun to see, somebody ran this 7 times and now they're very curious about what they do in the organization. So I will happily share out this Jinja. Obviously it is tied to ITS, but there's nothing proprietary in it. Just you probably should update your organization name before you send this out to anybody.
So many questions. How did you do this? Like, did you manually have to say, like, here are the stats that I want, or were you like, did you have it dynamically pulling from, like, how'd you know the marathon? Like, did you say specifically measure the marathons as per this, or?
No, I just said, what's the average human walking pace? And then did the math against how many hours of meetings I was in.
You coded that piece in to say, like, that's what everybody had that same metric there?
Yeah, exactly.
That's
so those
really
are
cool.
dynamic there. Coffee is just meetings times 1.3. I wish I would have gone back and said per hour of meeting do 1.3, but yeah. So all those metrics are dynamic based on what data you have for your organization or for your user.
You should put that on your GitHub.
I should. That sounds like a great idea.
And you should share that out. That's awesome. That is so cool. Thank you. Were there any other questions that anybody had before we move on? Amazing. All right. So now we are going to jump to Jonathan and Raven. It's your turn to show us what you've got.
Oh, okay. Forgive me, I'm sick, and I think I'll be a little bit lower energy than the past one. But I've got something, fairly simple. Well, I always say that. Something, nothing crazy to show today. Raven, I work with a lot of people, and something that everybody always asks about is they always ask for a portal. Everybody wants all of the cool stuff that gets made in Roost to be accessible to their users and their customers in like a nice way, rather than having to like manage links, right? So they want their technicians. Sometimes like a technician wants to go through all of these things. And sometimes, you want like a new onboarding form to be accessible to an end HR person. So we figured, well, we get asked this question so much, we might as well put some work into making something that's like pretty reasonable that we can just give to these people over and over, and we can just kind of adapt it to whatever their specific use case is. So I took a little bit of inspiration from the default app builder page portal, where you've got kind of this homepage with these different just general cards for different tools that either correspond to different forms in Roost or just different applications that you have in Roost. So any one of these corresponds to a form, and then I've got a custom one that has to do with like an app builder page. So from the technician side of things, you've got an organization drop-down selector, which is just pretty standard. This is all custom HTML. So you've got your baseline org and sub-orgs. So if I go into a test org, then whatever form that I was selected in is just going to load up. We've got our sidebar, we've got all the different things that we can also load up. We can go back to the main page. That's most of it, just like the baseline functionality. Of course, all of our customers want it to show kind of differently, you know, and not everybody's going to be in love with the gray aesthetic. So we make it really easy to like brand, to recustomize it, you know, put your own logo on things, recolor it to your own design, because everybody has a different kind of take on that. And so whatever the point of contact says, we just, yeah, sure, we can change it to that. But this is just our kind of standard baseline minimalist design. It's really kind of straightforward because we want it to just not break and we want it to just do what it's supposed to do and just bring up the tools. Let's see. So one of the things that makes this a little bit different than a lot of the other portals that get shown on here is the ability to kind of customize what is shown based on who's seeing it. So I'm just logged in under myself, and as myself, all of these tools are configured to, you know, show it to the admins. So if I wanted to kind of curate this experience so that a certain organization has a different view, then I can limit and show what tools, I can limit down what tools are shown to them based on like the JSON config. So I'll just like very quickly show that like it can be done. So if I go and I go under a test admin user, I have changed this out so that if, you know, we're under that user, if we reload this exact same portal, you can reuse the same link. You don't have to be managing two different portals for these different user experiences, especially between like different organizations, which might, you know, you might develop a custom automation that's just for this one sub-organization. It's not relevant to all the other ones. You don't want it to show up for them because then they'll start asking about it. So for instance, here I'm under an admin user, and now all of my things that were under mail are not showing up because I didn't want them to have access to it. So this is even at the workflow level, so it's not even like hidden in the HTML somewhere, and those tools just don't show up for this particular user. So beyond that, we also wanted the ability to change things based on roles, even so, because even not necessarily by organization, you might have a particular role that you want to have more or less permissions than others. Say you want to have give users the ability to reset their own password, and then you want to give access to this, and you want that to be different than the people who have access to like onboard users or stuff. So for that same way, I also built in the ability to limit down particular tools to certain roles in Roost. So not only just of course, you can do this with app builder pages and like limiting who has access to the forms and those sorts of permissions. But at this level, you can also change it to where it doesn't even show on the screen so that you don't have the people kind of nosing around, and then you have to worry just a little bit less about that security. Not that you should ever not worry about security, but so this is like the end user who has even less options. They get a few less of those password and security options. Of course, this is all demo. One of the final things is this is mainly built out for forms, but it also I wanted it to be extendable so that you can also make use of the other app builder pages that you've already made if you make them so that they can be organization specific. So almost all of these are just forms which will load, but I have a custom page which you can just put whatever URL you want in here, honestly. And if you could load in an IR-frame, you could load it if you load it in an iframe, then you can load it here. But built into the portal, if your app builder page takes in a organization ID, if you just make it take in this query param, you can make it load specific data. So if you've got a data table grid, and then you have a workflow that loads based on that, then you can use this and have it work within this singular portal, and then you can just tie it all in. You've got this one place to work out of. It's quite nice. All right, so that's most of it. Any questions that I've missed? Nothing crazy. It's nothing crazy.
JB?
Yeah. So how are you doing the permissioning? Are you using tags, or because I know that the built-in permission thing was set aside for the time being. So what's governing who sees what?
Yeah, so for the permissioning, so it's all based off of kind of a JSON configuration sitting in an org variable. The permissions are defined based on a workflow. So whenever the page loads, it knows who the user is, and then it uses that user and it finds what their permissions are in Roost, and then it compares it to the configuration file. So if I go to my tool load, and so since this loads every time, you want it as minimal as possible so that you don't have long load times. But essentially, it just compares the it compares the user, and also whenever you get a page load, App Builder is nice and it sends over all of the user's information as well as their role IDs that are included in that user. And so you can see what roles they are. And if you're just a little bit more scared, then you can, of course, query Roost and double check that those roles are the correct roles if you're worried about them injecting into query parameters or something. But that's the baseline of how it works is you make use of this workflow that runs on page load. And then that's also a core feature of the security of this is that the entire rendering of the Jinja and how everything is limited down happens at the workflow level before it even gets to the page, so that like all the
So they
information
can't
about
hide it.
yeah, all the other information about the other organizations and all of that never even reaches their page because it's limited down at the workflow level before it even goes out to App Builder.
Smiley faces on stuff to make.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Yep. The only other thing, there's like a few nuances to this. So whenever you embed forms, if you use the /embed, you get the light mode. And if you don't use the /embed, then you get the dark mode. And the /embed is just slightly more cross-platform than not using /embed. So this is kind of the difference if you were to, I don't have a good example. Basically, whenever you're looking at the trigger and you've got the webhook URL and it gives you like, give me the iframe embed code, that gives you the /embed URL. And we ran into some issues where if we were embedding things without using the /embed, then it doesn't give the proper like CORS headers. And so on more security focused browsers like Firefox or all browsers, eventually those iframe embeddings won't even work eventually. So you'll have to use this /embed. So if anybody's using kind of those embedded links or embedded iframes, but not using the /embed, then it might come eventually with some browser update that you have to change over those links. Yeah, I'm under the weather. My voice is off. Sorry.
That's amazing, though. It's really cool.
Yeah. I guess I can stop. Thanks for the time, everybody.
Thank you so much. You got a lot of reactions, a lot of love there. Thanks. All right, let's jump over to Alden. What do you got for us today, Alden?
That's my name. Hello, hi.
Hello.
I'm Alden. I've got a workflow to show off. So it's an easy one, but it's an important one for us. Probably for anyone else really. Ignore the names of these, but what this workflow does, little four-stepper, it gets a list of all of my texts, so to speak. It finds any tickets that are assigned to them that are either in like in an actionable status, and will just run a little basic SQL query, and then it will go ahead and recursively send them a message with the kind of date and time and the things that have not been actioned on kind of since the last message. And so it pops over and then it marks them as sent in my database, kind of have a database acting as an interim just to ensure that we're good. So and then I've got kind of send message flow that takes care of the issue where someone may be out of the office. I've demoed this one before, but this one quickly it gets the user information, it checks if they're out of the office or offline. And if that's the case, then it goes to this little send to backup block, and it sends to the kind of the VAs or backups along with also the user, and then if they're available via a presence check, it'll send over to the user. And if we get the odd case where somebody for some reason is not in my list of users, just doing this quick SQL call where I've got my users. Oh boy, Roost is having fun. I got my users listed out with their conversation IDs, depending on which bot is being used. Like someone pointed out, it does send me a warning message that says, "Hey, dummy, it failed to locate the user." But using word, if anyone's doing Teams bot messages, building a workflow like this is just beautiful to be able to not have to have some of the monotony of finding people's information in different systems, especially if you're working amongst multiple different systems. And so Strawberry, when this workflow runs, it's got a nice amount of tasks, and it kind of just runs hourly to update everybody as necessary. So yeah, it's pretty nice. Daniel, we got reminiscence, and that's about it. Is there any further questions?
JSON path query spotted, and I warn him about dynamics. Say potato. I don't think there were any other questions.
Yeah, I don't think there were any further questions. I think we're good at this point. You can't warn me about dynamics. The dynamics didn't happen. But hey, that one's super useful, and management has loved it. We've seen a huge increase in like speed to kind of getting to first response with that, with getting a Teams bot to message hourly and inform people like, hey, here's some things that you may have missed, and here's what's going on. We also do have some error checking in there at the end, where if it fails to send, it'll send obviously after the next hour, and it's built to run hourly during weekdays. What do my tabs say? As a large language model, I can't read that back to you. I don't have access to the browser.
Thank you, Alden. All right, so we've got about 14 minutes left, and I want to leave a little bit of time for Q&A, but more so a very special community announcement. We have to hear what George has to say.
Hello. Yeah, one is more of a general thought for folks on the call. Calvin actually brought this up a couple of weeks ago, and I've been speaking in different circles about it, and haven't found anyone in the community with any concrete examples yet, or at least anything to show around out of office automations. And with the holidays coming up, I'm wondering for next week if we could get anyone on deck for any out of office automations. So that could be, maybe you've got a client who's closed for the holiday and they want certain autoresponders or things taken care of. Maybe it's stuff to do with yourself where you've got a lot of your folks out of office over the holidays, and maybe if there's 3 critical events that happen, you want to make sure that those are escalated and dealt with appropriately. So just a topic of conversation that's very timely at this time of year. I'm just curious if anybody has anything. Brian Simpson, out of office steps, new message received, mark red, delete, done. There we go. But yeah, if anyone has anything interesting, would love to hear more, because some of the folks I've spoken to have just been like, oh yeah, that would actually be great, but we don't have anything like that. So if you're interested in tinkering with something, sharing something, please let me know. Beyond the other usual announcements, call for speakers at Flow is still open. That's going to be closing at the end of the month. So if you missed my announcement last week, We've updated the form slightly so that we're looking for the what, the how, and the why. So even if you're, let's say, not a business owner, a business leader, you're more in the weeds technically, we want to see and hear from you. That's some of the feedback that we got from the event last year. There was some great thought leadership workshops and sessions ran, but there's a lot of new people in the Roost community. There's a lot of new partners, and there's a lot of new engineers that just want to see and work with other people in automation and just see what they're doing and how they're doing it. So one of the things I pointed out last week was that even if you're not big into public speaking, don't let that deter you. That's something I personally am happy to work with you on, happy to help you with your presentation, whatever you need. We're just very interested in hearing from you in the community. All right, last but not least, I've got a little treat for everyone, with it being the holidays. Our ELT, our executive leadership team, have been in Tampa this week working very hard with a sort of end of year review and doing all the planning for next year. And I think they needed to cool off a little bit. So with it being the festive season, I thought, what's better for our community than a goofy little game? And so we've got this to share with you. So let me just pop this on my screen. I'll share this in a minute. You can head over to Roost Festive Fun. And we have a little snowball game with a leaderboard that you guys can pelt our various executives. And there's a pesky little Daniel who's a little faster that you're going to want to try and ping.
Will you release the
About 30
stats of who
seconds to
got
do
hit the
so.
most?
That's what I wanted. I'd be interesting to be like, they didn't get that high, but they hit Aaron every single time.
So yeah, so head on over to, I'll drop the link in just a second, but it's roostfestivefun.com if you want to participate in that. One general announcement I'll make is, please don't post anything naughty on the leaderboard. Don't be the reason that we have to take this down. So nothing lewd or crude, and that'll be shutting down at the end of the month. So in our first open mic of the year next year, January 2nd, we'll reveal who that leaderboard topping person is, and we will send you a big Roost swag box. So get pelting snowballs, enjoy, feel free to brag about it in the coop, and hope you guys enjoy.
I like this little concept of like reminding everybody that this is their community too, and be the reason why we get to keep all the fun stuff.
Yeah, Logan.
Thank you.
I just want to know that if we hit the right people enough times that we get folders. That's what I want.
It's like the Konami code, Amanda. You got to get, like, you know, the right people in the right order to get folders.
I'm in the right spot because I know what you mean.
Well, we've now got 10 minutes left and time to kill. So what do you guys want to talk about? Or do you just want to throw snowballs?
I want to know what people want to hear at the next conference. I've been thinking about putting in a talk, but I've got like a couple of ideas. It would be interesting to know what people would find useful.
Roost user walks into a bar.
Oh God.
I don't have the punchline yet, but
we've lived that one a couple of years in a row, so maybe we could just do like a recap and rehash.
You're so sweet, Clea. Like, I think that's the hard part, right? Like, when I sit down and I write what I want to talk about, it's that how do you problem solve with automation? But like, it's so dependent on the use case, right? And in my cases, it's always business dependent. So, you know, I know what I have in value in my business, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the person who's listening to the talk would want the same thing. So, yeah, I'm a bit perplexed.
One thing I'm hearing, I know that a lot of people will be very interested in. So if you're someone who's involved with this or beginning to push this in any way, two main things: self-service is huge. A lot of people are very curious about what other MSPs are doing to promote and push self-service, not only internally, but with clients as well, understanding that half the challenge isn't just the technology and automations you're using, it's actually behaving changing behaviors. So anything to do with
Ooh.
self-service would be hugely popular. And then the other buzzword, I feel like a broken record because we talk about this internally a lot, is automation as a service or as. And this is something I feel like every MSP I speak to wants to know, hey, how do I monetize automation? How do I start offering automation as a service? And the reality is it's still incredibly new to our space. I don't think anybody has the golden bullet for it yet, but I know lots of people are begin to roll that kind of stuff out. And again, the challenge is with your clients as MSPs, it's getting them to change their behavior, or even internally at your team, you guys know, oh, this is how we set tickets up, this is how our PSA and RMM work, so we can begin to refine things, to automate things. Part of the immediate challenges with your clients is going and knocking on their door and saying, hey, what's a process that I can help streamline for you, that I can automate, and that's opening a can of worms they're not able to articulate, or sometimes they don't even know what some of those processes look like through a technical lens. So anything
Well,
around that
that's what
area
I
is
was going to
hugely
say,
popular.
George. That's the hard part, because clients don't know what's possible, and it's really hard to imagine how you could get something off your plate. It's really about having that conversation about where the pain is, so you can be able to translate it. Alden, you were going to say something, but I don't know what you were going to say.
I am a client, and by all by all meanings of the word. So if somebody wants to run a question by me, run a would this optimize your life type question, hit me up. I don't work for MSP. I work for a corporation at this point, so or an enterprise. So feel free to bother me if you want to know if something would be something that we would want.
Yeah. Well, that's if you're designing for each individual and you want to scale it. But I think automation as a service, in my mind, and maybe someone wants to jump in and correct me, is the way that we do things for managed services is wildly different. And the reason why I think a lot of people are having a hard time conceptualizing it is it isn't standardized. Like if it was standardized, it'd probably be more likely to be a professional services project. Whereas when you're doing something where you're consulting, you're consulting a new thing almost, monthly, if not bi-monthly or whatever, and it changes the conversation because it's not about standardization, it's about outcomes.
Joel?
It's about
Joel,
finding and
yeah.
facing the problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to add to a little bit there. One of the things that I've gotten from the open mics is an alternative way of thinking about my problems, whatever they may be today or tomorrow, etc. So if you've got the topic that you're interested in, your perspective might give someone else the ability to think outside of the box. So just keep that in mind as well. It's a big thing. Like I'm doing automation with SourcePass, and I'm doing it for a whole bunch of clients, a whole bunch of companies as needed. We're expanding it to do lots of fun things with outside of just the SourcePass tenant. So it's just having that alternative thought process. This is how I'm using it, is sometimes more helpful to me than trying to pinpoint the exact pain point, if you will.
I have a question for you though. Like when you develop that, how are you having that conversation with the client in terms of what the benefit is to them? Are you looking at a specific line of business app that you can streamline, or is it was there something specific that you started with?
I think the biggest thing that it makes or breaks the conversation, without getting too in depth, would be, what are you struggling with? Like in our case, we're MSPs, so all MSPs typically have tiers of support, those sorts of things. So you got an L1, L2, L3, you got projects, you got ProServe, you got all these different avenues, and maybe something that's happening on the L1 board is causing frustration, and it's because steps are being missed, documentation's not being followed accurately. So cultivating that conversation from the perspective of, tell me what your biggest issues are or what your most repetitive issues are, and then isolating down how we can remedy that via automation, which is repetitive, right? It only does what you tell it to do, unless you start getting into the field of AI, where it has some judgment calls it can make. But outside of that, that really is probably the beginning point.
Thank you. Nicholas, did you have something to add?
I was just, a similar mindset to Joel and kind of the approach to that. One of the transitional things that I've been working through for my clients and such is really standardizing GRC and automation with GRC. And so governance, risk, and compliance, everybody falls under it in some sense. And so trying to figure out, and the question that I've got out to the community right now that I'm really trying to hone in on and work through is, how do we automate GRC? And making some of those true buzzwords and those true pitfalls of the GRC landscape, make more sense to just the standard user of, oh yeah, this does fall into that bucket because it's this framework or this control set. So just a thought topic out there for building automation around the GRC ever-changing landscape too.
Hmm.
It's really interesting. We are, yes, I'm just reading the chat here too. Love that talk idea, Clea. Yes, George, everybody get their applications in. We got some interesting things to talk about. We want to start talking about them again, get ourselves thinking about those things. We are at the end of the hour